Hello, hello. How's it going, everybody?
Good, good.
Good. Um, so I think I remembered what we said on Tuesday we were planning to do today, but correct me if I'm wrong. We want to work some textbook exercises. And um, we also want to chat a bit about how we understand equivalent sentences, so quantifier equivalences, and then also pick up with a discussion of what constitutes contradictory sentences in quantifier logic, and then I have some going back into the discussion of translations. I wanted to pick up also with some expressions that we saw when we were talking about conditional claims back in chapter 6, but that we didn't spend a whole lot of time on. And so I want to kind of see if going back into that by way of uh, um, similar expressions in quantifier logic is helpful. And hold on, my phone chimed at me, so I just turned it off. Okay, so for us to work on some textbook exercises, let me do the following. Bear with me. Or who weren't able to make the meeting, so I apologize. That I'm only just now coming back. I only am just now remembering, hey, I didn't resume recording. Okay. So let's use what we remember from chapter 7 here, right? So only acts that are both immoral and illegal are violations of public trust. Are you guys comfortable with the idea that when we say only in quantifier logic, we are talking about an exhaustive and an exclusive class, right? Oops, did it again. I can't remember how I did this. Nope. There it is. Right? So for every x, if that x is a violation of public trust, then that act is both, what did we say is immoral? Mx and L, not Lx. And so what we want to say is whatever comes after only goes in the consequent position. And we know that we're talking about both of these things being necessary, right, to the idea of the violation of public trust, which is why they both go in the consequent position. Now, you could say that instead of Lx standing for X as a legal act, such that you then negate it, you could stipulate that, some other letter is a stand-in for that which is illegal. But then if somewhere in your argument you needed to talk about legal acts, then you'd have to negate that. So I figured let's just go ahead and have LX stand for a legal act and then negate it.
Mia,
what are you thinking, Kate?
What happens if instead of having an and, you have an or?
Great question. So if you have the or, now what you're saying is either it's immoral or it's not legal. It could be both, right? We know that based on the truth functionality of the disjunction, right? But what the sentence is saying is that it's literally asserting that both must be the case. What do you think? Like, what's making you wonder about the disjunction rather than the conjunction?
What I mean is, like, so let's say everything is something or something else. Like,
Right.
sentence, the first sentence, some impeachable acts are not violations of public trust. So what happens if everything, all acts are impeachable acts or violations of public trust?
So in that case, if I understood you correctly, then I think you're switching up the asserted necessary condition, right? So what is exclusively violations of public trust are both of these things.
No, I know that.
Okay.
That it's a conjunction because of the and, but I'm just saying if you have a universal, and then instead of an and to connect them, you have an or, so it's either one or the other.
Oh, yeah. So sure. I mean, you could say so. So if we like, let's just for the sake of simplicity return to thinking about our blocks language, right? And I say simplicity only because again, I'm thinking that we can visualize blocks and cubes much easier than we can visualize illegal acts. So we could say something like this. We look at a world, right, and say everything is one of these three items, right? A cube, a tet, or a dodeck. Now we know that in Tarski's world, we can't have everything be all three at once, right? Once we start iterating, instantiating more specifically, then we're going to have to pick one. But we can say everything is this, or it's this, or it's this.
Yeah, so how would you rewrite it in first order logic?
Oh, okay. So I think in this case we would say only acts that are either, right? We'd have to do it that way.
I'm talking about like so if we go back to the other lesson with the blocks language, everything is a tet or a cube or a dodeck. How do you write that in first order logic?
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. I see. Okay, so we're going to do this. Everything, oopsie, we're going to do it right too. Everything is a cube or a tet or a dodeck, right? And then it doesn't matter what world we build, it's going to come out true.
Got it.
Now let's try this. Only, how about this? So only the cubes and the tets are large, right? And just to make things super, super simple in terms of like not confusing us at all, right? Only the cubes and the tets are large. So if it's large, then it's either a cube or a tet. And how did I end up deleting the cube? I don't know, but how are you doing? Does that help a little bit?
Yeah, it does.
Okay. Yeah, sorry for misunderstanding you, and sorry also for the muck up with the worlds. Okay, so let's do this. Let me ask us to just to finish up with just this sentence. We'll come back to this on Tuesday. We'll also come back to 11:17 on Tuesday. So I'll make sure I save everything, and if I don't remember what we're doing, yell at me. Um, we'll finish those up, and then I think you have a pretty good idea of how we're going to understand the translations. We can also chat a bit about the idea of first order truths in a way similar to the distinctions that we were making back in propositional logic, where we distinguished between a tautology, for example, and a Tarski's world necessity. But then I think that the most of our time should be spent on, after that, should be spent on proofs. Okay, so the difference between only and the only is the article the, right? So we have only blah, 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 and then we have the only. So how can we understand what we're saying? Which one do we think makes more sense? Do we think that we're saying, I keep forgetting my shortcuts. It's really annoying. Sorry. Don't mind me. I'm just yammering on. Okay. So here's the question. Where PX is prosecutable, is the proper translation this, or is it this? So let's go ahead and read through each and see what we think. For every x, if x is prosecutable, then it's not legal. For every x, if x is legal, then it's prosecutable. So here's a question for us. Are we saying that in this case, the prosecutable acts is the exclusive category, or does prosecutable acts, if you will, fall into the category of illegal things? And you might say, well, Mia, it's reciprocal, right? So you have this sort of joint necessary and sufficient condition. That may in fact be the reality of our system, but I'm after only what the sentence is expressing. So go ahead and think about this, and then why don't we do this on Tuesday? Let's pick up with this exercise set, because we also want to go get to the last the one that the sentence that sort of set off this discussion, right? That article. And then we'll move on to seeing if we can fix up the two sentences in 11.17 that are off. And then we can move back into some practice with derivations. Questions, problems, confusions. And by the way, if you say, oh my gosh, this is so confusing, don't stress over it. Just every time you think you're kind of losing your way, just remember we have our standard translations, and we have our universal affirmative, universal negative, existential affirmative, existential negative, right? Those are our go-tos, and we can build using those as our foundation, right? And so the fun part about being confused here is that we can say, so I wonder why this is wrong, or I wonder how I should think about this. And that's really the goal of this part of our work together, namely to take the time to think about what is the logical structure of what we say on a daily basis. Okay, so as usual, I'm around. If you have questions, problems, confusions, let me know, right? If you can't make it to office hours, but you still want to meet, then we can find another day and time to meet. And if you're working on something and and you just, or sorry, let me rephrase that. If you just want to work on stuff and then let me know when you have a question, just pop into an office hour or say, hey, I want to set up a time where I'm effectively working in the same quote unquote room as you, Mia, but I don't, I'll let you know when I have questions. We can set that up too. Okay, sorry, that was very convoluted. Otherwise, have a super awesome weekend and I'll see you on Tuesday.
Bye.
Bye.